fiction. I've never actually done this. North American accents are going to be a hell of a lot harder than, say, European English accents like Irish and Scottish English and Welsh English accents. Because the thing about Northern American English accents is, for the most part, they tend to have the differences tend to be much more subtle. Whereas, I mean, in Britain, you travel 5 miles and the entire pronunciation changes.
And while they're not addictive, they're not without risk. Disorientation and dizziness, as well as feelings of nausea and paranoia, can also be experienced.
It also affects the lungs because obviously it's ingested that way and can cause spasm in the throat.
Well, I mean, it's definitely Irish. That's 100%. But then we've got two, I think, different Irish accents. I mean, you got the standard RTE, standard Irish accent there. But, I mean, the fella that they're just interviewing there, he sounds kind of Limerick, kind of Western. And she maybe, like, Dublin area.
When somebody...
Oh, we're not even getting that. We're not getting that detailed on this. I was hoping we were gonna get into it because Irish. Then there, for a very small island, Ireland has lots of accents. I mean, what people speak like even within Dublin, you can tell what postcode somebody has in Dublin from their accent because you've got the sort of North Dublin accent where it's about like this, and then you've got this sort of almost kind of vaguely English, vaguely almost Californian sounding accent south of the Liffey, where even within Dublin. But then you've got like Kerry, which like in Ireland, even when they're speaking English, they need subtitles on RTE when they interview people from the Kerry countryside because nobody understands it outside of Kerry. It is like famous for that. And then you've got Limerick, which has one thing going on, and then Galway with another thing, and then you've got like Meath and the central part of the country, and Cork, which has its own my absolute favorite English accent and stuff like that. So I mean, just saying Irish, okay, that's disappointing.
And my name was not establishing at all. In my time, I think I will call it as a golden era. Heroines survived for a longer time.
Okay, this
today.
is
Today
someplace.
Just
I'm gonna say northern
2-3 years
India.
and then they are over. It's nothing wrong
Probably a
in
Hindi
my
native
life
speaker.
that I have to hide something.
Fault of my own, I managed to skip Italy. So as I was going through, I didn't even notice until when everyone was saying, "What about Italy?" And I was like, "Oh damn, snap! I missed Italy." So that's my bad. Sorry about that.
Okay,
as for
that's
Armenia
English.
and
That's an English
Bulgaria,
accent.
I
Yeah. Oh, wait a second. So for England, they're gonna be regional, but for like Ireland, they're not. Don't tell me. Okay. This is confusing as hell right now.
To be muddled by my knowing too much about. I want to generally know what the case is about. And we do the cases. We start at 9:15 in the morning, and we usually finish.
Okay, I'm gonna say this is someplace between like Brooklyn and Queens, that area, maybe like Bensonhurst. Definitely Manhattan. I'm gonna say towards the northern area. Not but definitely like a very sort of New York
By 3:15
thing
in the
going on
afternoon.
there.
And we've done a week's worth of cases in that day.
A few awkward ones that either don't know the way home or they just want to stay on the mountain. So it's a little bit more difficult with the weather being so hot.
I'm gonna
The
say
kids
South
get
Wales.
tired very quickly.
Not
Shepherds get
valleys
very
though.
tired.
Actually, maybe North Wales. Oh, that's just Welsh. See, that's bullshit, really. That's really just that's not good, because the thing is, there is not just one Welsh accent. In fact, there are bus routes you can take within Cardiff, the Welsh capital, that will take you from one accent area to another, and it's not a long trip. Because what they speak in the Vale of Glamorgan, where Penarth is, and all the like sort of posh areas like Cowbridge and stuff like that, just south of Cardiff sounds one way. Then urban Cardiff, there's like the traditional Cardiff sort of accent, which you hear less and less because you have all sorts of transplants within Wales and within England, from England to Wales, and you have like Westerners, you have Northerners, all of whom have their own special accents, and so you actually have a lot of different accents in Wales. And then if you take the valley lines up from Cardiff to the Merthyr Keen Taff area, then you get the Valleys accent, which I'm doing very badly, man. And then if you go out to West Wales, it's a different thing. So just Welsh, that's not great.
I really appreciate you coming in on such short notice. We were given an anonymous tip, and so we did a random search.
Okay,
And found in your
almost
son's
certainly
possession
Jamaica.
The following.
Oh.
But of course, the thing about the Jamaican accent is you find it all sorts of places outside of Jamaica, and Jamaican English has actually developed to a certain extent in all sorts of places outside of Jamaica, because you've got there's like Jamaican English as it's developed in London and all sorts of other places like in the US in some parts. But I'm gonna say
I'm
someplace
telling you
generally
Shut
Jamaican.
your mouth.
My husband and I mean, we inspire each other all the time. It could be daily things where we're both on a workout kick and we inspire each other to, be focused, or just really anything. We really talk it through with each other and get each other's advice. And
Oh god, okay. This is the worst accent ever to try to geolocalize, because you hear versions of this basically everywhere from about Missouri to like all the way up to Manitoba, and then all the way out, actually, getting to the West Coast, it starts to change a bit. But there's a huge area. Like, this person could be from Indiana, they could be from Illinois, probably not Chicago. The Chicago has a fairly distinctive sort of accent, though you hear, there's less of it now because lots of people are coming to Chicago from all sorts of parts of the country and the world, so that affects the speech. But I mean, it could be like right around here in Ohio. There's a lot of places this could be.
just help motivate each other.
Oh, that was California. Okay.
Esmeralda, or do you know what I would love to do actually? If they ever did, this isn't Disney, but if they ever redid Prince of Egypt.
Yes.
Because I've seen they've done the musical for it now in the West End. So if they remade that into a film, I'd be down for that. You know what I mean?
Okay, there's a lot going on here. There's some northern stuff going on, but then she says film, and that's Irish. This is not overall an Irish accent, but she says film, not film. Film, that is very distinctly Irish. I'm gonna say maybe around Manchester, Lancashire area.
Talk to me about the.
That's Geordie. That did not sound Geordie to me.
If you're a good website designer, then what you want to do is you want to be able to work with someone who understands SEO, search engine optimization, or understands Facebook advertising, or maybe they're a very good salesperson. Now you can focus on just doing your website design and.
Okay. This sounds like okay, you have this sort of glottal thing going on at the end of the very staccato sort of glottal stop thing going on at the end of the syllables. I'm gonna say that this is somebody who probably also speaks Cantonese, I'm gonna say, I mean, like maybe, I mean, there's lots of places. It could be like Hong Kong. It could be Malaysia, Singapore as well. Um, but I'm gonna say probably somebody who also speaks Cantonese.
And somebody else can be focusing on doing the SEO and marketing side of things.
Where is it? Singapore.
And that's been a calling card for us this year. So proud of that. Proud of our group for standing together. You can see a big moment in the game for me, you know, regardless of score. Tough hit in the corner, and then Tanner's able to stand up to
I'm gonna say, okay, this is another North American accent. You can hear, you know, variations on a fairly wide geographical area. I'm gonna say this is Canadian. I'm gonna say actually maybe tending towards central Canada. Though I've heard it in Western Canada as well. I mean, it's definitely not that sort of like sort of Dan Aykroyd sounding very thick sort of profound Ontario accent, which you don't hear as much as you do amongst in like sketch comedy or something like that, I've found. But I'm gonna say this is definitely Canadian. I'm gonna say maybe around Saskatchewan, possibly Ontario, possibly, even BC, possibly.
one of the toughest guys.
North Central, yeah, okay, that fits. I mean, North Central, there's a lot of overlap there. I mean, there is not the boundaries, dialectology. Let me just. I remember this was funny. My mother, like a few years ago, she shares me this article on Facebook, and she's like, "Oh, this will be right up your street," and it's about how Pennsylvania is seen as this dialect treasure trove because, within this state there are 5 distinct dialect areas, and at the time I was in Cardiff, and it's like in Cardiff, a city that is not even like the size of Philly, I don't think, there are easily 5 distinct dialect areas. Like, there is so much less dialectal diversity in North America than in a lot of other English-speaking places. So, I mean, this could be, you say it says American North Central, but I mean, that could also be South Central Canadian. I mean, you could hear this in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, Alberta. You hear this. I mean, it's a huge area that where people speak like this.
Almost like the one hardest ingredient of school is like if the kid's happy, like you've got all the permission to do everything else. I was really happy, but nothing else happened, and it was a bit of a weird.
This is like estuary English. Somebody, although. I mean, this could be a Londoner, like, the whole sort of London, Essex, home counties area, I'm gonna say. I mean, it could be Kent, it could be Essex, could be, it could be Lewisham, could be Walthamstow, could be a lot of places. You hear this all in the sort of surrounding areas of London.
One as well, because, like, when I was at school, like, dyslexia was never really, you were either almost blind.
Essex. Like, there are bits of Essex that are on the London Underground system as well. I mean, these are fluid boundaries. Because Essex is also sort of like London's version of, like, Connecticut. How people who have the money and get sick of New York City, they'll sort of move to this, bits of Connecticut that are practically Manhattan suburbs. And you have a similar movement of people out of London, and they end up in Essex. And so there is a lot of dialect overlap there.
And they just sung me like a traditional song as I got off stage, and I was already emotional. I just started bawling my eyes. It was like such a nice way to finish the night.
Yeah, this is Australia. I'm gonna say it's not Queensland. It's not like your broad Raffles got sorta Queensland accent. Yeah, you know, it's not going to be like that. I'm going to say maybe Melbourne. I'm going to say maybe Sydney. Probably more urban tending. All the
Just sung this beautiful song like as a gift to me or something. It's just so beautiful. And
just Australia. Yeah, I mean, see, this is annoying because okay, we've had the area. Or okay, so London gets its own, Geordie gets its own, Essex gets its own, but Ireland's just one. Wales is just one. Fucking, Australia's just one. Australia is not just one accent. There are definite differences in people's vocabulary and in people's pronunciation between, like, the east coast of Australia, the west coast, the more sort of interior areas. Then there's like Aboriginal English, which has its own very specific accent and rhythm to it as well. I mean, there's all sorts. I mean, that's a huge area to just sort of say, oh, it's just Australian.
To finish off this look, I take a couple of sections on the top of my head, and using a paddle brush, I tease the head to create a little bit more volume on top of my head. Last but not least, I do a quick final spray of hairspray.
NZ? Okay, South Africa. Okay. Anglos. And again, South Africa, I mean, you can't just say there's one South African accent. If you listen to Afrikaans speakers speak English, that does not sound the same as Anglo-South Africans. And it's not the same accent as you get from people who are native speakers of isiZulu, isiXhosa, there's a different accent there. South Africa's got a lot of different accents. That is, I think, Anglo-South African, which makes it a little bit harder than other South African accents to distinguish from the Antipodean English accents like NZ. I mean, I wasn't really too convinced of NZ. It just didn't sound so much like what I'm used to as an Anglo-South African accent. NZ, the vowels weren't quite right, but yeah.
Maya, just like Gcash, they are both digital platform that you can pay bills, you can cash in, you can withdraw, you can deposit, you can do anything, you can pay online. Did you know that, guys? PayMaya offers both virtual and physical
Filipina, maybe?
Really a wonderful prevailing atmosphere of tolerance and understanding, and I feel that my own experience is proof of that.
Okay, that is definitely Scotland. Definitely southern, maybe border Scottish, or possibly Edinburgh. I'm feeling like it's not quite Glaswegian. I'm thinking maybe Edinburgh.
And actually, it makes me feel quite proud to belong to a country where it's...
Oh, and they're just gonna say Scottish. There are tons of different accents within Scotland. Like Orcadians up in Orkney, they have a totally different accent because it is very heavily influenced by the Old Norse. Because like your Shetlanders, your Orcadians, I mean those islands had as much influence from the Vikings as anything to do with Scotland. So they have a very distinct way of speaking. Edinburgh has a different way of speaking than Glasgow, and then there's the border Scottish, and you got the Highland Scottish accents. I mean, just saying one Scottish accent? I mean, seriously, what the fuck? You're gonna give Essex its own, and then Scotland gets just one? What is this, the Electoral College?
And said, well, tell me about yourself. And this interview went on and on and on. I mean, when I arrived, she said, if you got your car on a meter because you're going to be here 3 hours. I said, 3 hours? I don't even know what the job is. So this interview went on for about 2 hours. She asked me absolutely everything about...
Birmingham, maybe.
What my interests were.
And again, what is this? Like, England gets all of this. that even the U.S. they're distinct. Like New York gets one, and then there's North Central, which I mean, again, that's a huge area. You could fit so many Englands, so many Waleses, like so many. That is such a huge area for one for one sort of accent. But then Scotland and Wales and Ireland each only get one apiece, even though they got tons of different accents. This was clearly, I'm going to say, this is like a bonus question. I'm going to say the person who made this is English. Because, like, only English people within Britain think that Ireland's got one accent, where there's like an Irish accent, a Welsh accent, a Scottish accent, but then a million English accents. I mean, there are a million English accents, but there are a million of all these other places as well that are adjacent.
Oh, I've had my Twitter since March 2010. That's been a long time. I was about 11 or 12.
Okay, Southern United States, which is another area. Yeah, there's a lot. That's a huge area, and there are lots of distinctions in there.
Yeah, not gonna do the math, but yeah, I was young.
I'm gonna say like maybe Georgia, Tennessee, southeast.
So there are probably some pretty stupid stuff.
Southern, like, okay, there is a general, like, Southern is a category more than just one accent. Like, Texans and Floridians and Tennesseans don't all speak exactly the same way. But they all fall in the sort of general Southern category. And that's before we even get into the fact that there are also different varieties of AAVE spoken in these areas that have their own accents that are similar to to the accents that are spoken around, spoken in the regions, but also have they also have distinctive aspects as well. So I mean, see, this is why. I would say a lot of I'm sure this has got to be English people who made this, and it explains a lot about why it is when English people do North American accents, and it's something distinctive. It's something outside of just like your normal Midwestern, mishmash of accents. When it's anything more distinctive than that, they start to run into trouble because they're not making that distinction.
Where me and the girl I was seeing at the time had seen a mutual friend that we hadn't seen in about a year. And she said to me,
okay, this feels like Wisconsin, or not so much Minnesota. I'm gonna say Wisconsin.
she was wearing the same clothes that she was wearing last time we saw her about a year ago. And I was very confused by this. I said,
wait a second, did he say about a year ago?
She was wearing last time we saw her about a year ago.
Okay, this could be Canadian. This could be someplace in Canada as well, but yeah. Actually, maybe Ontario more than...
And I was very confused by this. I said, how do you remember what she was wearing?
Yeah. But there's so many features that your Southern Canadian accents share with adjacent areas of the U.S. And that also has to do with the fact that there's been a long pattern of mass migration northward that, I mean, nobody really talks about much in the U.S., but it's been a thing because all sorts of groups of people who were persecuted in one way or another in the United States have traditionally gone up to Canada. I mean, that's where the main terminus of the Underground Railroad was, because there was no slavery in Canada and no Fugitive Slave Act to bring people back, and then, the populists in the late 19th century, when that fell apart and started getting cracked down on by the state, they started moving up to Canada. And you have, like, in the war on Vietnam, you had a lot of people who didn't want to fight there going up to Canada. So there's, like, the result of all of this is that you get a lot more. There's a lot more similarity than difference between U.S. and Canadian accents, especially when you get to the northern part of the U.S. The more adjacent, the more similar they are. It is a very fluid boundary. And also, if this is just Canadian, wait a second. There's like more than one Canadian accent as well. I mean, Newfoundland has its own thing. You know, Quebecois English. The Quebecois have a different accent. The Maritimes have a different pronunciation. I mean, and then there's like all sort of distinctive Ontario accents because Ontario itself is enormous.
Carl was telling a story, and he said, blah blah blah, and the next door neighbors who kept a horse in their house. Anyway, they'd gone away for the weekend, and we were like, "Whoa, what?
They kept a horse
in the house?" And he's like, "Yeah." Anyway, and he didn't realize that was the interesting part of the story.
West Country in England.
He just thought that was
Bristol. That counts. I'm taking that. That is like because see, when you get to Western England, which includes Bristol, it includes Devon, it includes Somerset. You know, you get that burr that almost sounds in some places a bit like a Wexford accent from Ireland. But yeah. And of course, there's a lot of just sort of bog standard Southern English accents in Bristol, but the traditional Brizzle accent is very much like a West Country sort of an accent. That's good cider.
No, it's wonderful. But it's just, it's the best day of the year, this. This is the best day of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. You can spend your life playing in golf things, and I don't. I mean, I do a few. I came back and I did Fergie's golf day, but this is the greatest because I do it without a shadow. But it's just, it's the best day of the year, this. This is the best day of the year, without a shadow of a doubt. You can spend your life playing in golf things, and I don't. I mean, I do a few. I came back and I did Fergie's golf day, but
Okay. This is a confusing one. Because you got the burr. You got the ruticity. Which could be West Country. It could, but they've already done only one Irish. And there's some bits of this that sound like Ulster a little bit, more up in the area where, Donegal and Down and everything, but not so pronounced. This could be, but then you've got this, the sort of glottal stop on the final K's like that, which is much more of an English thing. God, this is complicated. I'm going to say England West Country again.
But this is the greatest because you know that you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, now we know it's English people. Because that flag? Not exactly the consensus, not exactly an accepted consensus symbol of the 6 counties. Also, so I'm gonna guess around the Malone. Like, this is not, there are all sorts of different accents within the 6 counties. Derry and Belfast do not sound the same. And then down in Armagh, the pronunciation changes a bit. And you've got, they're just collapsing everything. And also, Northern Irish is not a distinct dialect area. Like Donegal, which is also part of the the province of Ulster, but it is on the other side of the English border there, has a more in common in speech with Derry than it has, say, with Dublin or, with Limerick. Yeah, this is definitely English people made this. This is, I would bet money on it.
Yeah, I'm just excited to be just doing this again because I haven't done promo or released music where I've gone out to promote it for a long time. Like, I've released a lot of music and stuff like that, but it's just good to be back out on the road and back in the scene. And
okay, this could be a lot of places. Let me hear this again.
I'm just excited to be just doing this again because I haven't done promo or released music we have gone out to promote it for a long time. Like I've released a lot of music and stuff like that, but
maybe NZ. Maybe we finally made it to NZ.
It's just good to be back out on the road and back in the scene and going on tour.
Yep, NZ. There we go.
Say, okay, maybe this might be the chance to do it. And then I kind of teased the audience a bit the following year by asking them what they thought about whether I should participate or not. You know, what they thought if I would participate. And I had another bout of very, very good comment. I would participate. By this might be the chance to do it. And then I kind of teased the audience a bit the following year by asking them what they thought about whether I should participate or not. You know, what they thought if...
Okay, this feels like a native speaker of a Slavic language who has spent a lot of time speaking English and has sort of softened out some of the key sort of Slavic features. Could be, I mean, maybe Polish, could be Ukrainian, could be like Czech.
If I would participate.
Maybe not so much.
I had another bout of very, very good comments. And then...
Maltese. Okay, I never would have gotten that in a million years. I wouldn't even expected that to be in here. Like, the sheer number of things that aren't in here in a guess the English accent thing, like you don't have Cork, you don't have like specifically Dublin, you don't have Limerick, you don't have Meath, you know, no distinction between Glasgow and Edinburgh and borders Scottish, no Orkney, no like distinction between like BC and Ontario.